Today we're going to be looking at the top 10 rookies in fantasy scoring from week 7. We're going to project out to the future with these rookies as well. This is going to help you in Dynasty Fantasy Football. This is going to help you buy, sell, trade players, and redraft, forecast players off the waiver wire, give you that confirmation bias you need for that rookie that's on your team, and everything else. But before we dig in, you need to click that subscribe button right now, because we're going deep on the waiver wire every single day. We're using these videos to help you set your lineups. We help you in redraft, dynasty, devy, even deeper than that. The only channel out there that's really going that hard in the paint. Click that button right now. Stop missing out. Ric Flair's watching you. Do not disappoint him. But we are going to start off with Brian Thomas Jr. Brian Thomas Jr. has been getting it done. He got it done again last week. 24 fantasy points against the Patriots. Look at these numbers from last week. We had a 25% target share of 5 targets. Ran 18 routes, 85.7% route participation rate. Slower game when it came to the passing rates here, with an 18 routes ran at an 85% clip. 64 air yards in this matchup, but a 12.8 ADOT. So a high ADOT, past double digits, a good target share. Those are elite numbers, and we're seeing that week after week after week. Brian Thomas Jr. has been in 90% of these videos. He's probably only been missing out of 1 due to lack of production. That is very good. He is the top scoring rookie from week 7 right here, not counting the quarterbacks. And I think he outscored the quarterbacks per the spreadsheets. That being said, Brian Thomas Jr. is on a roll this year. His stock should be high. You're going to have to pay up for him in redraft next year. His dynasty stock should be up there as well. And it should stay up there when you get a wide receiver age 22 with this production. The market should say it. The market should say it. There should be no dips in the market right now unless something happens to him. Brock Bowers has been immense. 19.3 PPR fantasy points, 19.13 here on Sleeper, a 40% target share. A 40% target share, running on 85% of the routes. Running 55% slot rate, 65 air yards, 4.6 ADOT. That's tight end numbers, really. That's how it's supposed to work for him. But we're getting volume. We're getting the fantasy production. We're on this spreadsheet damn near every week, just like Brian Thomas Jr. This is an immense player that you should want in fantasy football forever. This is a first-round tight end prospect that we've been waiting for since his freshman year of Georgia. And it just only transitioned very quickly. When we looked at him in rookie camp, they were just trying to get him involved in the offense. He was taking handoffs. They were just trying to see what they can do with him. They knew what they had here. They knew they had a tremendous tight end prospect, and now that tremendous tight end prospect is hitting. Bucky Irving sharing the backfield with 2 other running backs, still got you 16.7 PPR fantasy points. He's a guy that's on a lot of rosters. He's a guy that's hard to start week to week sometimes. He's very hard to start, but you're putting him in there because you're looking at Rachaad White, now you're looking at Sean Tucker, and you're like, man, he's got some competition, but he keeps getting it done. To me, that's another testimony to how good he is. Despite what we're seeing on the field, he's looking good on the field, but despite everything else on the field, with all the other players and stuff and what else is going on, we're also getting used in the passing game. 18 routes ran in that matchup. Mind you, there was over 70 points scored in that game. But still, he's on the field. If he fumbles, they go right back to him. We saw that against the Falcons. Bucky Irving's a player to have on your fantasy team. 16.7 PPR fantasy points. If you get kick return points, you even want him more. I got that over here to the side. He's getting some kick returns as well in some of these games. That being said, Bucky Irving has a ton of upside for fantasy football. Keon Coleman had his upside game. We've talked about Keon Coleman a lot this season. I did a unique video on him. Pretty much the premise of that is he's a volatile wide receiver, and he's still rookie. He's a young rookie at that, and he's still ramping up. And we got Amari Cooper in the offense. Amari Cooper's going to see more targets and more routes. Expect him to be volatile. He's probably going to be even more volatile from top to bottom with Amari Cooper there. But it's a volatility that you may want even more because he might be more spikier on the top end. The bottom end might be lower and more consistently on the low. So you might hate that or love that depending on how you play the game. But also, as he ramps up later into the season and into next year, He should be a good wide receiver too, next to a guy like Amari Cooper, getting targets downfield, but it should still be volatile fantasy production. Deep targets downfield, like last week, 13.9 average depth of target, 97 air yards. We had a touchdown that didn't go through, if you remember that. 7 targets, 21.9% target share. I do have his film on my Twitter if you want to go take a look at that. All his targets from last week, all 22. Not the most elusive wide receiver in the route running, but very solid on contested catches. Josh Allen will go straight to him one-on-one on the boundaries if he needs to. That's where the fantasy points will be scored if we can bring those in. Jatavian Sanders, JT Sanders is getting some looks. Redraft-wise, we are starting to get more volume. We're starting to get more snaps. Over a 70% snap share in his last 3 games. Targets are increasing. 5+ targets in his last 3 games. Sound alarm on that. Maybe not with Bryce Young against the Denver Broncos. Maybe not that. But you guys sound alarm on that. But the volume's increasing here. And that's looking good. A 35.3% target share. That's usually pretty wonky for a tight end, especially a rookie. But that's good volume. That means normal games where those numbers are regressing, that's probably going to push 20% or more, and you got the upside volatility for that, and you're getting targets in this offense. That's looking good for a rookie tight end. That's a sneaky player right here. We're calling out a sneaky player right here. In redraft, basic 12-man league, it's going to be hard to look at him because he's a tight end. Anything bigger than that, you might want to think about him, especially if the tight end position's ransacked. JT Sanders, the guy to pay attention to. You might want to buy low right now in Dynasty because the numbers here are saying that we might see an increase in something coming forward. Ray Davis. We like Ray Davis, and now he's in the spot where we thought he'd be. And these are the numbers we thought was going to happen. 50 yards here, 90 yards here, a few balls caught here, touchdown here, getting you some fantasy production. Being a great guy to roll off your bench, playing matchups with as the 1B back in Buffalo. This is what I saw. This is what we got. Wish we got it sooner, but we had a little fumbleitis in training camp. We got that resolved right now, and things are looking solid. Scored as the RB22 last week, 11.7 PPR fantasy points. Mason Tipton enters the chat. Chris Olave is back. Derek Carr is going to be back. So we're just watching this from afar. We got 9 targets last week. I don't think you're really going to bank on this. This is a wide receiver to pick up if you're in an uber deep league, probably more than 16-team leagues. Dynasty as a stash. Not a stash I'm going after unless it's a running back, but a stash you could look at, especially if he increases value somewhere down the line. You can flip him for a 4th or 3rd. That's something you could look at. But he ran 43 routes in this contest, 19 targets. Quarterback situation is definitely going to change from that game. Spencer Rattler, no more. No more. Ran slot a little bit, but we're shining light on that. Troy Franklin, 10 fantasy points, 6 targets. He's been ramping up. The snaps have been ramping up these last 2 games. The targets are going up. The volume's going up. 24% target share last week. We're getting a little bit of run in the slot. We're getting some opportunities. May not be grandiose due to the offense. If you're in Dynasty, I don't think you can buy low right now because a lot of Dynasty gamers are really watching me and what I'm doing, especially with some of these deep plays here for fantasy football. And on top of that, if you drafted Troy Franklin, more than likely you're watching him like a hawk, so I don't think he's liquid anymore. The time to buy was like week 1 and week 2 when things are very slow, maybe in the off season. There was a lot of publicity on him in the off season, going over his clips and stuff. So after week 1 and 2 was your best bet. I think he's not as liquid in the market for Dynasty Fantasy Football. And redraft, you better be paying attention to him. He's sitting on waivers in most leagues. Pay attention to him because targets are ramping up. You may want to look at the right matchups to start him, but pay attention to him. McConkey's been questionable these last few games. He played last week. We still got 7 targets, which is good. 95% route participation rate. We have an 8 out of 5. So again, you got to score touchdowns and you got to break loose to get production. Good enough production in deeper leagues. Not great in shallow, basic, traditional leagues, but still 10.6 PPR fantasy points, 9.6 depending on how your scoring is. He's getting volume. He's getting looks on the field. That's something good for McConkey, especially after he's been questionable all week. He's questionable now, more than likely going to play. Ben Sinnott enters the chat. It has been Zach Ertz all season long. I said chat like a Northern Ohioaner there, but targets 2 in this game, ran 7 routes, caught 2 balls, 6 yards, 8.6 fantasy points. At this point, the rookies aren't really scoring at a high clip. He is starting to get work, ran 45% of the snaps, getting some opportunities. It's starting to ramp up a little bit. Something to pay attention to with Ben Sinnott. But we're looking at the quarterbacks to finish this off. Jayden Daniels went out with an injury, might be back. So you really can't go over that production there. Bo Nix, QB 17. It's fine. We're still the starter into the season. We had some QB1 weeks, like 1 or 2 of them. Caleb Williams was on bye. He's coming back against the Commanders. Drake Maye, back-to-back QB1 weeks. The leading rookie quarterback of last week. Back-to-back, been getting it done in his first 2 starts. Looking good. Spencer Rattler. I was right, but I presented it wrongly. I said he was either going to go to the moon or go to hell when it comes to his fantasy football stock production, what he's going to do on the field. Definitely went to hell on us during that time. But how I could have presented it to be better for you guys is I could have said that usually when you get a player with that stock coming out of college, the odds are more likely that they go to hell. But you're still going to chase that upside in certain leagues because you want to just shoot for upside and gamble. That was my bad. Even though I was right on the results, the process could have been better there. Michael Penix got some run last week. We got to see him play. That's cool. Maybe in the future, but we're always paying attention to Michael Penix. But those are the rookies from week 7. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on the way out. One, thank you for watching. Catch you on the next video.